Appliance not working? Find replacement parts at reliableparts.ca.
Hello, I think we're live.
Appliance not working? Find replacement parts at reliableparts.ca.
Hello, I think we're live. Hopefully I'm not getting an echo here. Sorry, I am playing. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hi Kim. Hi Judy L. Hi Gladys. Hi Kim Burrs. Hi Karen Brownson. Oh my goodness. I was having some difficulty there. My one overhead camera wasn't working, so hello everyone. Okay, just let me get situated here. And this doesn't, oh well, it might look okay. Don't know where I am here. Hi Kathy. Remember, Gladys, you can share channels. Whoever has a channel that would like to share their channel if you're a creator. So first of all, can you hear me? I guess that's the main thing, if you can hear me. If I could have a looks fine, good. And what about the volume? I'm just going to change to my other camera here and just show you what I have down here. Okay, great, Karen. Thank you very much. Whoops, I hit the wrong button here. Just give me a second. I'm still trying to get back into. Great, thanks, Kim. Judy L., thank you very much. Okay, in the description below the video, I did manage to get the PDF files. If anybody has any trouble downloading those files, just let me know. Thanks, Kathy. Always have to check out the technical things first. I'm also going to be adding a page 4 to the files. There's 3 pages. First is your stitching templates. Second is your, first one is your coloring tape templates. And I've got those in front of me here. And then is your stitching templates and your fabric templates. And I have included a layout, and this one is 52 by 40, and it gives you a whole area that each one of these blocks you can color in if you want to see what it's going to look like in a huge quilt, or a table runner, or whatever you have. Now, I have, underneath here, I have the stitching templates. And I am going to be showing you how I work with this. Or if you don't have a program or something like that that you put stuff into and you can see what the squares are going to look like. So in this right here, and now I'm just going to I just have to find my camera or my zoom in. Can everybody see this okay and read it? If you can, just let me know. I'm going to try out, I'm just going to try out my camera. And if I can figure out where it is, let's just try here. Where did it go? Oh, where did it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. And I am just going to check and see if I can zoom in a little bit here so that I'll just try to zoom in a little tiny bit here. And I'm just going to watch it on YouTube so I can see how far it zooms in. I might have to move it down a little bit. Yeah, I'm cutting off the top there, so. Okay. Alrighty. So what I have on the desk is the 4 copies, or 4 sections to the blocks. So this is 1 block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and 4 blocks. And I left it like this so that I could just get an idea of what I'm using or what it's going to look like. And I've just colored in some numbers and everything like that. So just with a pencil crayon, I colored in, use my pointy tool, I colored in, ignore this right here. So because this is what it's going to look like on the, when you've got all your fabric sewn on, it's the wrong side of the stitching paper because the stitching side is the underside. Well, anyway, it's what it's going to look like when it's finished. So each one of these is going to determine how I color and where my placement is. So on the first block, I colored this purple, and then green, and then I picked this color for number 5, and this color for number 4, and this color for the white. So the center is going to be white. And then I thought, well, what do I want my next block to be? Do I want to make it the same as this? Or do I want to change it up a bit? So when I put 4 blocks together, what is it going to look like? So I decided, well, on the second block that I'm going to make, I want the green beside there. On my second block, instead of purple being in there, it's going to be green. Number 3 is going to be purple. 4 and 5 would be blue, or sort of a greeny blue. These 2 center ones are going to be an orangey color, or whatever it looks like on the screen. And then 4 and 2, and so you can see when I put the 4 blocks that I make, and I'm going to be switching colors for each stitching template. So this is the first block, and then, so now I can see what it's going to look like. And does that make sense to everybody? And I usually, like I said, I usually work with 4 blocks at a time. And that's where this coloring sheet will come in handy. If you want to have your colors, you're going to be able to see 4 blocks put together. You can see where this corresponds to here. So if I put these 4 blocks together, where did I do with my pencils? So if I put those 4 blocks together, let's see if I can find my purple. I should have left the ones out. But just with a pencil crayon, no, it might not look exactly. So this one, whoops, that's not purple enough. I need a purple. And of course, can't find it. Here we go. So this one block is going to be purple. And then not this one and not this one, but this one right here is going to be purple. And then I go down to the second block, and number 4 is going to be purple. And this one's going to be purple. And depending on your fabrics or whatever, that's how I lay it out. If you're new to foundation paper piecing, I would suggest that you work with solids first. However, I'm going to show you with prints tonight and a directional print. So now let's finish coloring these in. So number 3, which is in my first block, is going to be green. And number 2 is going to be green. So what I'm going to end up with when I color all these in is I am going to, what have I got? Pink. This is going to be close enough. Pink is down here, and pink is down there. My colors aren't exactly, I should have left the colors I used the first time out. Okay, so now 2 and 3 in the center there are going to be blue. So we'll color those in with blue. And then this outside one, that doesn't look like green. Anyway, so then 4 and 2 right here. Okay, I can color those in. And they're not the same colors, but and then 2 and 3 are going to be a blue, so we'll make it a dark blue. That might be the same one I used, but oh well. Well, that's wrong. 4 and 5 are supposed to be the other color. So scratch that. We'll make 2 and 3 that color. See, I messed up already. That's not the color I want. Orange. Orange, orange. Let's go with orange. So I did. See, I messed up. Okay, so we'll just reverse those. And if you notice, these 4 blocks will look like this, except it's supposed to be these colors, but I messed up. So then when you go on to your next 4 blocks, you can color those in if you want them the same as this or whatever. Then you can just color in your colors, whatever you want. If you're working with scraps, you don't have to worry about it. So that's where this coloring sheet's going to come in handy. There's no border on it. So without the border, if you wanted to put a border on, it'll be larger than 52 by 40. That's all I fit on the page. I can make it so that I've got more on there, so it's going to be bigger, but you can just print out 2 copies and then cut your pieces, tape them on, and it'll be bigger. So how I figured out 52 by 40 was I just counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Each block is 4 inches finished. So that means I need 10 blocks across. 10 times 4 is 40. Counting down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 times 4 is 52. And these sections here in this particular one would be white. And I might make another copy and have it smaller so it's bigger, so but you can just cut a second piece apart and tape it on and make it bigger, however many blocks you want to cross or down if you want to fill in the whole coloring sheet. Now hopefully that makes sense, minus my mess up with the colors. Okay, so now the any questions, just ask them. If you're watching the replay, just leave a comment in the description below the video. So I have the sheet for the fabric templates. It comes with enough pieces to make 2 blocks. So what I've given you, if you want to print out 4 or 2 copies, that'll give you 4 fabric templates, and each one will be placed on the color that you're putting in your section. So now I am only going to be using 1, 2, 3 colors, but they're pretty much all the same. And I'm just using leftovers from the quilt or the table runner behind me. So I just cut out, there's 2 lines on the fabric templates. The little dotted line is your stitching lines. The solid black line is added 1/4 of an inch. I've added the 1/4 inch seam allowance to the outside. And then what I've done is I've added extra fabric around all of the sides of the template. And I've done the same thing with each one of the pieces. And you will cut them out, and then this is what you'll end up with. We're going to start with the center piece, then number 2, number 3, 4, and 5. So now, when I buy my fabric, I pre-wash everything. It's just something. No problem, King. Hi, Mary Jane. Great to see you. And Kim, no, don't be sorry. You need your rest. Okay, so these pieces, when cut out, will be the exact size and shape that you need to put onto your stitching foundation paper, the stitching template. So now the next thing, and like I said, I pre-wash all my fabrics. I serge the edges, and then I throw them into the washing machine, and I use a hypoallergenic soap or a detergent, and I don't use fabric softener or dryer sheets. That way I know whoever's been handling or whatever, it's whatever, and that my fabric has pre-shrunk. So whenever I press, if I have to use steam, it's not going to shrink, or it won't shrink as much as if it wasn't pre-washed. Now I know they say that good fabrics won't shrink. And I picked up at I'm going to just show you, I'm terrible for, someone says, oh, it shrinks this way and it shrinks that way. So I have done a test, and if I can find it, oh, here it is. I'm going to move this off to the side, and I'm going to bring in my test sample. And this was a Christmas print. It was a remnant. And before I serged it first, because my serger cuts off a little tiny bit. And I wanted an exact measurement when it goes into the washing machine. So what I did I measured it before I washed it, after I serged it. It measured 42 by 11 1/4 at the shortest side. So then I threw it in the washer and I threw it in the dryer. And now I'm going to measure and measure the shortest side. Well, let's measure the longest side. I've got salvage edges together here. So I know that's right, and I haven't pressed it or anything. And so I'm going to zoom back out again, just so you can see. Hopefully that's okay. But you can see I have salvage on my right, fold on the left. And I'm going to just give it a little tug, just to keep it nice and straight. So to begin with, and I'll tell you that I was always taught that fabric will shrink, not salvage to salvage. It'll shrink in the length. That's why they always tell you to buy extra. At least that's what I was taught. So let's test this out. And this is quality fabric from a quilt store. So I'm assuming that it's good quality. It feels good. It's a nice tight weave and everything. It didn't have a salvage on it, so I can't tell you what it is. So now I'm going to take my tape measure and I'm going to measure from salvage to folded edge. So let's measure that. I guess I'm measuring from fold to salvage. And when I measure it, it comes up to 21 inches. Here, okay. So, and I'm not stretching it or anything like that. So it's 21 inches. 21 times 2 is 42. And according to my measurements before washing, it was 42 inches. When I measured it before, I measured the shortest, and this way. And remember, it'll stretch from salvage to salvage, but it won't stretch much in the parallel to the salvage edge. So now I'm going to measure, and before I washed it, it was 11 1/4 inches. So let's see if it's shrunk. So I'm going to measure, and it only comes to 10 7/8. And that's the shortest side that I measured. So the difference between, so it was 42 by 10 7/8. So which way did it shrink? It shrank in the lengthwise, not the crosswise. So what I was taught from this little experiment that I've done, I have to come to the conclusion that the way I taught was right. However, and you can always tell a fabric when you cut it, if you don't have any salvage edges on it or anything like that. It'll stretch crosswise grain a little, lengthwise grain very, very little, and on the bias it'll stretch quite a bit. So I have to think that, okay, was I right or was I wrong? According to my experiment, what I was taught years and years ago, I guess, is right. So when I test everything, and I've tested others, and I found the same thing, but I wanted to test it on good quality fabric from a quilt store and just see if it was. And a lot of times I'll just test. And so that, whoops, I put my little note on freezer paper so I could, I have to turn my iron on here. Where am I going here? Okay, just turning my iron on. So I am going to press that on, and it will stick to it. And okay, the other thing is I thought I wrote it down here, 10 and 3/4 I have on here, so I wrote it down wrong. Oh, doesn't matter. Anyway, I've made myself little labels. I'm a bit of a whatever, OCD, I guess. But when I buy a piece of fabric, serge it, wash it, and then this is 100% cotton, and I write the measurement on it. So it's a piece that's 42 by 10 3/4. And this is on freezer paper. So then I can just iron that on. It's not going to harm the fabric or anything. I'll iron it on. And then fold it up nice and pretty. Sometimes I will just give it a press with a hot iron and then pre-starch when I'm going to make something. But so then that's ready to be put away. So that's what I do with my fabrics. So that's the reason I'm telling you that is that when I go to do my fabrics, I have 1, 2, 3 fabrics, and this one actually has a number on it. Oh, that's the other thing. This is a fat quarter, or it was, up on the top side here. Let me bring these two down here, because I'm going to show you how I figure out with fabric placement and working with stripes. Whew, getting warm here. I'm going to have to take my sweater off. Is everybody following me so far? The other thing I do, and I will scan my fabrics in, and when I scan them in, if it's a fat quarter, I put a number on it, and I have a number system that I just, if it's a fat quarter, if it's just 100% cotton, I just put 100% cotton little sticker on it, and then actually my next number that I'm going to be using is A10. So it'll be A10, and then I'll put the measurement of the piece of fabric on it. But if it's a fat quarter, it'll have fat quarter. So when I'm looking for fabric, or when I want to put something together, I pick out my fabrics, and then when I go into my software program that I showed you last night, I can bring my fabrics in and test them in the block. And so right now I am going to switch to, so in this fat quarter it had, I think, 5 or so fabrics in it. And I'm only going to be using the 3 that are left over. And I brought in another fabric that's directional, so I can show you that tonight. So now I'm going to bring in, I'm going to share my screen. So remember, you're going to see some glitchy stuff going on here, and hopefully it'll work and I won't disconnect like I did last night. Okay, so screen capture. Now I have to turn off this and this. See a funny thing, and then I'm going to bring up my thingy, whatever it is. Remember, it's a thingy if I don't know what it's called or can't give you a definite description. Okay, so now coming up here, I've got my, this is the template that I used to print out to make for the square and a square. And now I have to go to, let's see what I got here. Okay, this is what I was playing with last night. And my program is going to show you that little circle there going around because it's just a little slower. Okay, and here I think last night I showed you how I placed my colors in there. And it has seam allowance on the outside, but when it's stitched into a block, it's only going to be this center section. So now I went on and I played some more. And what do we got coming up here? Oh, here we are. We have, I'm playing right now with the stitching template. And when I scanned my fabrics in, you can see that, okay, this fabric I'm not going to be using, but it was number 52. And this fabric I'm not going to be using, and it was 109. So I am only going to be, because I want to use up the leftovers from my fat quarter bundle, I'm going to be using 51, 50, and 49. Now, this one, I believe, is one of these fabrics here. I placed it in the center, and then, in the picture, I used this fabric as a, get an idea of what it's going to look like when I put it together. Here it's reversed. I put this fabric in the center, and then I think this fabric here on the 4 corners. So that is a square and a square. Now the other thing is what I'm going to be telling you working with foundation paper piecing. Hi Tessa, the scrapper. Oh, we have a scrapper in here tonight. Thank you. Great to have you here. Okay, we'll go on now. So for the demonstration for what I did was I used that in the center and made those there. So now let's see what we have on the next page. What was I playing with? I just need to go over a bit. So next what I decided to do, whoops. You can see I was playing there. Here is an image of those 4-inch blocks put together, alternating the colors. So I know when I use these fabrics, this is what it's going to look like. 1, 2, 3, 4 times 4 is 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 times 4 is 28. So this, if I put those blocks in that arrangement using those fabrics, this is what it's going to look like. And if I go over that, and if my math is correct, I can see on the side where right here it says it's 28 by 16. So now we're going to go over a bit, and I'm circling there. Okay, so we'll show you what else I was playing with. It's over on the side. I was playing with other fabrics. And of course, my program is slow. So again, this particular one that I'm showing you here is with another fabric, the white center, just placed all like that. And then on this one, I added a border. So using those 4-inch blocks, 4 times 4, so it should measure 16 by 16. And I think I put an 1.5-inch border on it. And we're just going to check that out. So, finished. Now remember, everything is finished here. And so it's going to measure 18 by 18. So the 16, I think that's a 2-inch finished border. Then I thought, well, I'll go down and I will check and see what else I can make. So in this program, I arranged my blocks 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this one, and then I would cut out a square that size and put one of them on the end. And on this one, I added a border. So if I do a configuration of that, when I highlight this, and those are 4-inch blocks. So I don't know what I added as the border, but it says it's 17.898 inches by 13.985. So we'll call it 18 by 14. And this was just rough. I could have come up with, a perfect size, but I was just playing. So when I'm playing, I don't normally come up with an exact size until I go to put the exact size blocks in, or if I'm adding a border. But if I have this ungrouped, I should be able to see, yes, okay. Let's move the background out of there, because my border is just a big piece. So when I measure this, pieced without a border, it comes to 16.010. So it'd be 16 by 12, add the border, and come up with something. I play with sizes and everything, and it all depends on what fabric I have. I'm using scraps. Oh, that would make an interesting block, wouldn't it? Or whatever. Anyway, next I was playing with colors. And, oh, I hate that one. Okay. So, could you scroll up just a little bit? My program is a little finicky here. Okay, so here I took these blocks on the side. So this is what one of the 4-inch blocks would look like when it's made. And you can see that that block is right here. The next block is the same. And the next block is the same. The next block is the same as this one. And the last one is. But what I did was I put all of them together. So this whole row is this stitching template, the block that I made, and it's all there. And then I just duplicated those rows all down. So I know if I use these colors, make a 4-inch block with those colors, put them all together in a row, this is what it's going to look like. But then I decided, let's try and play things up a little bit. And this gives you an idea of what just adding colors to a 4-inch block and putting them together is going to look like. So now I'm just going to scroll down just a little bit. So now what I did, I put, come on, okay, there we go. So here's the original block. And on this one, what I did was I took it and I put it in the first section. The next block, I rotated it. So the yellow now is in the top and the red is on the right. Then what I did was I put the same block beside it. So here you can see the same block as this one. And I did the same again, and I rotated it and put the yellow in the top left. And this is what this row looks like. We now have things that look like 2 half-square triangles there, or not, 2 flying geese. And it looks like flying geese here. And I just repeated that down and said, oh, maybe I like that configuration of putting it together. This lets me work with solids, with prints and everything just in the program. Now, why I'm telling you that is because now, okay, I think that's it for the screen share. Is that making sense now? This program has, I have the Cameo cutter. I started out with card making, and I found out that this software can do that. That's not what I want. I want this. There we go. So now these fabrics are just leftovers. And the reason I like the FPP is because it gives me options to use scraps. I never throw anything away. If it doesn't go in a project, it goes in a bag, and my daughter takes it for her. It goes and goes in a bag for her junk journals. And now I'm going to show you a bag. This is what I call my scraps. These are scraps that I consider not usable. Everything else is usable. And I always, when I start a project, I have a little bin, and all my scraps go in there just to see how much waste I have. Okay, let's get on to cutting this stuff out. So next I'm going to just talk quickly about directional fabric. In foundation paper piecing, sometimes it's difficult to, if you're working with a directional print, that how do you put it into your project and get it facing the right direction. And with the way I've designed my templates, and I only work with, I only share blocks that are public domain, meaning it's not copyrighted. And I never copy somebody's pattern. If it's for sale, I won't do it. If it has a block in it that's whatever, it's probably a block like a star or something like that, that anybody can make one of those. So I never use, I figured they put the time and effort into it. I'm not going to steal their designs. I only work with blocks, and then I put my blocks together using the fabrics that I have to come up with my own whatever. So now, why have I designed the fabric templates? And that's because in a particular one like a log cabin, the fabric I wanted to use had dots in it. Now I wanted to have my dots in the center. and the back of this is the same as that. So I wanted to have the dot in the center of each one of these so it coordinates with this. If I would have tried to cut a piece out so I would have had a solid, there would be weird dots all the way along. And you can see on this one, I have dots in the center. And I have my pieces running down the side. So now, why do I work with 4 blocks or 4 units at a time? And that is because on this particular log cabin, you make 1/4 of the block. So this is my block. This has this directional fabric in it. Was I thinking? No, because if you look at this, if you check out the direction, it's running vertically. And the vertical, when you cut it out, you have to cut your pieces out one way and then another way. So here, I have these ones going this way and these ones going this way. They both run the same direction. And when you turn the block, as soon as you turn the block, it flips like this, and then you get one that is not in the exact direction. This one and this one match because they're both going this way, and this one go this way. If I would have thought properly, I could have made them so that they all ran the same direction. But I wasn't thinking. Had lots of fabric and everything, and that is how the next thing I'm going to show you when I'm going to cut out my block. And I'm not sure whether we'll get to stitching tonight because I want to go over so you understand why, if you had a very specific stripe, it probably would show up. This particular fabric didn't show up on here. It just blends in. But if you were working with some really one, it would probably stand out. So when you are constructing your blocks for this particular log cabin, you would make 2 blocks. Which way does it go here? Anyway, you'd make 2 blocks with your template pieces going vertical, and then for the other 2 blocks, you'd make them go horizontal. And that's how you work with stripes or directional fabric. Does it matter on something maybe this small? No. But if you've got a large piece, it might. Okay, so now we're going to go on to cutting. And I need my fabric templates. I have 2 little trays that I keep my pieces in. So here are the fabric templates cut out. And remember to cut out along that solid, or not the solid, the dotted line on the outside edge, because that gives you extra fabric that you need for paper piecing. There's no guesswork to what I'm going to show you. And there's my stitching templates. So now we're going to go on to what did I do with my other tray? Here it is. Okay. Because I like to work with foundation paper piecing on foundation paper piecing on freezer paper. This one is not freezer paper. Okay, so now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take regular paper and I will place it on. Oh, and by the way, if anybody wants to pop over, I'm not sure how long Yvette's going to be on, but Yvette Renee, the guru of foundation paper piecing. She taught me the basics, and I learned everything from her. She does it different than I do. However, she taught me what I needed to do, and then I took it from there. So if you want to learn basics with other ways and things like that, and working with more intricate patterns and everything, she's the one to go to. Okay, now, fabric. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to cut my center piece out of this fabric right here. For one block, it's going to be this in the center, and then for the next block, I'll cut out of one of these prints here. And the way I determine that is, well, is that going to fit on this piece? Nope, it's not big enough. So I know right away before I do anything that this piece is not going to work for my center. So I can put that off to the side. And then here, I can see where I have lots. So I'll decide what I'm going to do. Now with the fabric and the paper, if you're going to cut out your template, and this is what I like about freezer paper. Now, your template, what side do you cut it on? Well, okay, and which direction do I want to go? Well, okay, I could, let's do them up and down. Now, where am I going to place this so it looks, okay, there's a gold one there, and a gold one there, and a gold one there. So I would take my template, and this is if you're doing like fussy cutting, and you want your specific center to be maybe a little dog or something in the center. And so what I do is I take I'm just going to take my cutting mat. These templates are designed to be placed on the right side of your fabric. For this particular piece, it's not going to matter, because if I put it on the wrong side, it's going to be the same. So how can I get this all centered so it's going to look beautiful if I had a dog or something I wanted to fussy cut? So I'm going to take my fabric template, and I am just going to take, and we'll cut here. I'm going to take a little tiny knife, and I was using it today, and hopefully I can find it. Yes, I found it. I'm just using a little blade like that. I'm going to place my ruler on this stitching line. So I'll place it on there, and I will cut just that stitching line. And I'm going to cut on all edges, or all those lines, except one long one right. Yes, right there. Sometimes I cut the whole thing out. So this is going to give me a little window. And remember, the stitching line, this in the center, is the finished piece. So whatever we place inside this section that I'm cutting out is what's going to show on your fabric. When you read the directions on here, if you have everything placed so that you can read it, and that will tell you that you're in the right direction. So, and on this one it's not that important, but this is how, if you were fussy cutting a square for something, you would draw yourself a square, And if it's a 6-inch square, then you would, it's 6 inches finished, you would draw yourself a 6-inch square, and then you would add 1/4 of an inch and make your little template, and then cut out the center just like I'm doing. As long as you know what the finished measurement is, you can always add seam allowance. Okay, I'm down to my last cut. And again, these don't have to be really accurate. My blade just isn't cutting through properly. But now I have a little flap. Whoops, did I cut that? Yep, I did. Okay, now I'm going to fold back along that edge that I haven't cut. And that's going to give us a little flap. Get up there. Probably would have worked better if I did it the other way. So right along that stitching line, I'm just going to give it a fold, crease. And remember, you're creasing right up against the side of the ruler. You're not folding it over top and pressing on top of the ruler. So now I have a template that I know whatever I place this on, whatever I place that on, and I'm going to make sure I can read everything is up like that so I can read it. So when I place it on like this, I can now decide, do I want my section to be, remember fussy cutting does use extra fabric. So now I'm going to place that on there, and of course it's being finicky, isn't it here? Well, I'll show you how to fix that. So now let's see here, center it up. So you would center it up whichever way you wanted. And so I've got that going down the center, and it's straight. I could line it up so that if I'm working with stripes, the stripes will be parallel to that. And now, once you have it placed where you want it, you can use a glue stick. The only thing I found with glue stick is that it'll stick to the paper and the paper will stick to your fabric if you don't take it off right away. So now then I'm going to fold my flap down, and now that's in position, and now we'd have to secure that down or try to cut it out like this. But we'll put a pin in it, right like that. Pinning will sometimes distort the fabric when you're working with foundation paper piecing. The pin distorting it isn't going to matter that much. So then I would cut out along that edge. But, so of course there's that template. And now I am going to, if I want to make one with this fabric, I will cut out one with this fabric, and from this fabric I can now place these on around this. So there's 4, 5, and I can butt them up right against there, fairly close. And so now I have fabric for, I don't think this one's going to fit over there, but if I would have placed it, I could have gotten and only used a square this big to cut those. There is no guessing, there's no waste. And so when I cut that out, I have a center white, and from this fabric I would do the same thing. If all 4 sides, 4 corners are going to be that, there you go. Think of this as a square and snowballing the corners. It's the same thing. The only thing is, when you snowball a corner and you flip this back, you have a square that you're going to be, let's see, here's my fabric. Here's my other fabric. You are going to be using a square. When you place that on, you're going to have extra fabric. Actually, it would be like this. Let's show you here. So there's my square. I'm going to snowball the corner. And when I stitch down the center of that square, my fabric will be folded back, but I'll be cutting off 2 pieces of fabric. And those, if it's a really small, a small square, like maybe 1 inch, I can't use that right there. But if I do that 4 times, I have a piece that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I could make, it'll be usable fabric if you place your fabrics properly. So then this would be, what's cut off would be waste. And I don't have that anymore. Half square triangles and flying geese, there is no waste when I do it, and it comes out accurately. And so hopefully that makes sense. Now I will go back to the stitching template when I do this. And the reason I'm not using this is because I'm going to show you with freezer paper how it works really slick. And I'm not going to worry about lining everything all up. I'm just going to find my little pressing board. Is everybody still with me? Hopefully. If you can every once in a while just say, wake up, hello, how are you? Just so I know everybody's still here. I see there are people in here, but hopefully I'm making sense, not messing with you. So here are my templates made with freezer paper. And in the last night's video, I showed you how you can, what to use for getting papers to run through your printer. Okay, so now on this one, all I'm going to worry about is that it's placed on there. I'm not going to cut out the little inside. I'm not working with anything serious. I'm just going to make sure that, you know, when I line it up, I've got straight sides. So magically with freezer paper, and I'm going to be using a little Dritz mini iron. So when I'm going to cut out these fabrics, I place my template on, and there's no pinning. If I had cut out that center, it would have, I could have flipped it back and then ironed it and ironed it back in. So now, if everybody's still following me, I need one center with a white center. My next block, which is my fabric. Oh, and I forgot to tell you where the numbers come in. So the numbers that I have on my fabrics, this is A9. So just in pencil, because I can reuse these, and in pencil, you would write on there, and I lost my pencil because I was playing with my grandson today, and we were measuring. Oh, found it. Okay, so then if it was a fabric that, whatever, you could write on if it was a print or if it was yellow or whatever color or white. So I'm just going to put A9. And I know that A9, when I have my template, that's the center of one of my blocks. So now I don't need anything else but 4. And I'm going to butt these up as good as I can, because I know that I can cut a piece. Let's move this one right up. As long as I have the edges lined up and everything, my salvage is right here, so I want to avoid that. So for my second block that's going to have the print center, I can place that on there. And depending on, you can switch it around anyway. So now, again, this is A9. And you can do this before. Whatever you've decided on your print, you can see here where I've colored one square in 49. So 49 is my 49 fabric. So you could number your colors and do the same, and then just, you only need to transfer them to this paper, whatever color you're using. You'd write green, green, and then on each one of these you would, if this one was blue, this one was red, you'd write that on there, and then you'd place it onto that color. Great, Gladys, thank you. Great, thank you, Judy. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now I've got 4 and 5. I need 2 and 3. Now, this is where I've made lots of copies here. I printed off. Now I can put these 2 blocks together, or templates together, and I'm not sure how they would go, but I could put them like that, or I can take, and from the other edge or whatever, I can put 5 this way. And remember, directional fabric, you want to be able to read everything. So if I put 3 and 2 together and put this into my block, this is going to be turned, so these ones would be going up and down, and these ones would be going sideways. So that's why when you're putting your triangles together, you're going to place them so that everything reads correctly. So in the bottom section, it's in the right direction. Number 2 is in the right direction, and the fabric is going up and down. Now if I put these 2 together, they are in the same direction. So I'll have 4 that are all in the same direction. If I turn my block, they're going to go the opposite direction. So you want to make sure they're all in the same way. That's why I've made it so that the pieces fit together, and you can, if you have scraps of this particular one, and you will know when you place it on the scrap, if you want those lines to go up and down, that is the way you would place it on. So I am just going to quickly press this on, and I'm going to, let's put one here, like this. You don't have to leave much space in between because I have allowed you extra fabric for the FPP. Now, if I put this one, I want to remember everything goes in the right direction, so I'm just going to put this one here. I won't worry about matching up any of the designs on here. So there we go there. And now to save fabric, I can butt this one right up. I didn't have to guess at the size. And I will put this one right here, and they are all in the same direction, and we'll quickly cut these out. And now my pieces are on there, and they're not going to fall off. If you need a little bit of extra, if they do, you know, come up a little bit, you can always press them down, because we are going to be using these when we go to sew things together. I'm giving you a lot of information here. So now, how do I want to cut these out? Well, I guess I should write on here A9. And I can erase this. If I want to use those templates again, I can erase this and put blue in there or whatever, and reuse those templates, saving printing out. It saves on printer ink. It saves on a lot of things. Freezer paper is less expensive than buying the free ones that are made up. And like I said, I cut it on use a big roll. Okay, let's get that mouse out of the way. Okay, so now we're going to cut this out. And I brought up a different cutting mat because this is my fabric cutting mat. The other one was a paper cutting mat. So I'm just going to line that up on the outside edge. And with my rotary cutter, I'm just going to go along the edge. And on this, it doesn't matter if the line is crooked. Because these are templates and we're be cutting off the excess. Now I can go down this side and cut in between those two. And if it's, you don't want to cut off that dot or dashed line. So that's cut in between there. I shouldn't have cut like that, but I did because I might waste some fabric along the way. Oh, and I'm too far this way. I only want to cut to the edge. And on these ones, if you're cutting more than one at a time, you can cut a strip, whatever width this is, but you would use the edge to cut your strip all the way along. And I will show you something too. Has anyone figured out why they tell you to cut your square the 7/8? Does anybody know why they tell you to cut it 7/8? Because I know a lot of people say, why are they cutting it 7/8? And I will show you in just one moment. And again, these don't have to be exact. Oh, that didn't cut through. And my bin for my fabric is right here. So that's my waist. And now with the templates in place, if I cut them apart and they get mixed up, I know exactly where they go. I know which side they go on and exactly where they go. Oh, I'm not cutting very good tonight. They want to make it crazy. No, I'm going to show you. It's very simple. Very, very simple. And when I figured it out, and this is what made me figure it out. Now I'm going to use my scissors for the rest of this. Have I got the right scissors? No. Those are my paper scissors. Faster than using my rotary cutter. And not only that, but I won't waste fabric like that or whatever. I cut things very, very economically. Like I said, no guesswork. I couldn't tell you what size that was. My life depended on it unless I measured it, and I don't need to measure it. Okay, so these are just rough cuts. Whoa, come back here. And that's cut. I have odd shapes, or odd pieces, or an odd line like that. But when I use a scrap piece, I am able to place this on, and if I look here, I can place this one on here. For my next cut down here and down here, and I haven't wasted hardly anything. So now I've got 5, and okay, so those are done. So now we'll just go on to cutting out that center of the next one. And when I'm done for the night, I can put my fabrics back like this, and put all my scraps. These are usable pieces. This one's a little over an inch. Oops, there's salvage on there. So that goes in this bin. That's the scraps I have so far. Everything on here I classify as usable fabric. Okay, so that one's out of the way, so now we'll quickly cut. I have 2 fabrics that, actually 3. I'm not going to get that out of there, but I can use and get some triangles out of there. So that one we can use to make one, but it'll be later. We're going to need a big center. And a big center and 4. A big center and 4 corners. So bring in my pressing mat. And again, these ones we're going to put on my sewing machine for now. So I need a center. So I'm taking those from this section and placing it on. It's in the right direction. And I need 4 corners. Now, the other thing is, because I need 4 corners, let's do this. Let's put 3 and 2 and make a square. And why do I like freezer paper to use as templates? Because I don't cut wrong. I am cutting the size I need, and I don't have to rely on looking at my ruler that sometimes I can't see the lines. 2 and 5. So there is that. Now, in my program, if I laid this all out, I could figure out exactly how much fabric I need, but I don't go to that extent right now. It's something I can do, but my brain is fried sometimes, and I just don't want to. That's just cutting it closer. I pressed it down too much. And press that down. And now we need a center. So I can place my center. Ooh, that's perfect. It was like it was made for it. Give it a press. And now I can just take and cut. And cut along along there. Cut that off. Some people will just take a hunk of fabric and guess, and then they'll have waste, more waste, where I am cutting exact shapes, and I know that everything is reused or is usable when I go to make something else. Now, because I've made extra templates, if I was making more than 2 blocks, I could put them all on and then cut them out all at the same time. And again, you can see where I'm cutting using just scissors, and the pieces are staying in place. They're not shifting, so I'm not getting any getting them cut off. And my ruler isn't slipping, and just by using the scissors. And I'm going fairly slow tonight. Okay. And now I'll just finish cutting this one out. Now, the way that they've told you in, I think it's the It's So Emma papers, you're going to be throwing those papers away. And you do have offcuts, but with the So Emma papers, you'll have, well, I've cut out what they would have cut out a big square, and then this is pretty much what I have waste. I don't have 4 corners because of the way I've cut it out. So that will go in. I don't think I'll save that. I could, because I've used pieces that size, but we'll let that go this time. Okay, now, to my question. Why do they make you cut 3 7/8 or 4 7/8? And I'll show you. And it, very, very simple. Okay. I'm going to take 2 triangles. And 5 goes down there. And it's 8, and I started at 6:30, so we've been on for an hour and a half. So this 2 and 5 should be a square. Now I'm going to take my ruler, and this right here is my stitching line. The dark solid line is my cutting line. In paper piecing, I've added extra, and 1/8 of an inch is all you really need. So now we're going to measure on this cut line from here to here, because if I overlap these, taking this off, it doesn't matter. When they tell you to cut a square a certain size, I'm going to put my ruler on here, and if I measure from the cut line to this edge right here, that is 2 3/8. This square is 1.5 inches. So if you want to write down what I'm telling you here, the square that has finished is going to finish at 1.5 inches. So if they tell you to cut a square 2 3/8 inches, you're going to get 1.5 inches finished half square triangle. Now, if it was bigger, if I had bigger ones and I measured from here on the cut line, a 1/4 inch away from the stitching line, it would come out to 2 7/8. And all it is the measurement from here to here. And it's like everybody says, okay, I'm just going to cut it. Okay, if that's 2 7/8, cut it 3 inches and you'll have a little extra to come off. If you cut it 2 7/8, you have to sew very, very accurately, because you would be cutting your half square triangle down. Now I can take this piece off, and now this one measures 3 inches. And if you cut your half square or square 3 inches, where's the other half? Your square is 3 inches. And you cut down the center from corner to corner, stitch that in. It's going to be bigger than what you want your finished half square triangle to be. And later on I can show you exactly how to make your own, but right now I'm just going to go on with this, and I'll show you how I stack up my pieces. So that goes on the right side. Remember, if you're working with solids, it doesn't matter which side you press it on, but with prints and everything, here we have it. So there is my center, the printed fabric, and I need, where'd I put them? Da-da-da-da. Here we are. So I have one center in white and one center in print. And 4 goes down here. 5, whoops. Make sure I got these right. Yeah. Let's do it this way, and then I can flip them over. Nope. Shirley, don't confuse yourself. Do it the way you're supposed to. 4, 5, 2, and 3. So now I have that one, and I should have 4 white ones. And I do, so I haven't messed up yet. Let's move these over. Okay. Print 2, 4, 5, and 3. I'm going to leave the papers on if you prefer to lay out your block so that you can see the fabric. It won't stick to this side here, but you can lay it out exactly the way you want it just by putting that piece underneath. And the reason we're keeping that piece underneath, because that's how I am going to show you how to put them together using the template to guide you to place your pieces in the right direction and what direction they're going to go. I don't have a piece. Am I missing one? No, there it is. So I know I'm not missing any fabrics. And keeping that piece underneath. And this one is one. Okay, we've got a little bit of time. I'm going to show you how to place your fabrics on the stitching template. And we want these in order. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I've lined them up exactly the way I want to stitch them. So now let's get a stitching template. Now, there is the stitching template. We want to place this on the wrong side, and it's the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm going to put this back on because I'm going to show you a trick to line things up. And this is why I love freezer paper. Oh, I did it wrong. It's supposed to go on the right side. So we'll place that on, and I want it fairly close to where it was the beginning. So I can just place that back on. So now we're going to flip this over, and that's going to go here. Wrong side of fabric to the sticky side of the freezer paper. So we're going to lay that on there. Oh, now how do I know if I've got it lined up correctly? There's a couple of ways. On this one, I can just look at it and see that I have, this is lining up along this edge with a little bit of overhang. You should have a little tiny bit of overhang. Because I have made the templates and cutting with the wrong side, or with the right side up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a pin, and I'm going to place it right at the seam, or right at that, on that stitching line, and I'm going to put one down here. I don't need a light box or anything to line it up. You can see when you're looking at this side, it's number 1. When you're looking at this side. So now I put my 2 pins in the corner. So that's going to line up with this mark right here. So I'll just put my pin in, and I usually use the cutting mat or the pressing mat. So now I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to see where my point is. I'm going to poke that pin right in there. And does it come out at the right place? Yes, it does. Comes out perfect. So I'll just stick this in here. Now, I don't want to press on the freezer paper. So I know that that's in the right place. So I am just going to, let's double check here and make sure. Oh, this one's off. That one is off. And I can see the fold line right there, and I can see, you probably can't see it, but I can see the fold and I can see the line. So that's where I want to put it. And now I'm just going to double check. And that looks a bit better. There. Yes, that should be good. Flip it over, and I've got lots of extra here. I've got lots of extra here, and lots of extra here and here. So I'm just going to flip this over, and without pressing on that freezer paper there, I'm only going to press on the part that's, there is no the wrong side of the freezer paper, and that's just going to hold it in place. If you have a really small piece, I'll show you what I do next. So that's holding it. Nope, it's not holding it. Why is that? My iron's set high. Well, we have to redo that. Mistakes, mistakes. Okay, poke the pin in there and poke it in there. My iron may not have been hot enough. Okay, we're going to hold it on there a bit. And then once I've got it on there, I just probably didn't let it sit there long enough. That should be good. Okay, yeah, that's in place. It's not coming off. So now what I'll do is I'll take it back to this pressing surface, and I'm going to use a piece of baking sheet and a pin, and I'm going to take this off. Just flip that up, fabric down, and just peel that fabric away. And now I'm going to take my baking sheet and press that down. You're going to be working with 1, 2, and 3. So, oh yeah, and this will stick to the paper, but it won't damage the coating. I just like to press this on so my first piece is stuck down securely. If you're going to be stitching through the lines, you'd have to glue that. Well, that's silly. Why is that not sticking? Of course, when you're doing it, try pressing it like this. When you're on camera, these things happen, but then you know, well, what did I do wrong? It's supposed to stick, and it usually sticks. I'm just winging it right now. Normally, if you press from the freezer paper side or the non-sticky side, it sticks. And if you do stick this to your pressing surface, don't worry, the freezer paper will pick up lint off of it. It won't go onto your mat, your pressing mat. Okay, that looks good. I have everything done. Okay, now we're going to go on to number 2. So number 2, we have, and again I can refer to there's number 2, and this is the way I had it. Now, is that right? Why do I always doubt myself? Yes, I'm doubting myself. Number 2. Is it right? Yes, it is, because if I put this way, I am going to trim away 1/4 of an inch there. So flip that over. That's number 2. I'm going to trim 1/4 of an inch away from that fold line, and that is pretty basic. That's, some people will stitch that on and not trim off. They'll trim off later because they have a larger piece. So there we go. So now when I fold that back, this piece, this is wrong side up, wrong side up. If I take this piece, flip the whole thing over, take that off, put right sides together, and you will notice you'll have a little bit sticking off each end. And if you were working with regular paper, you can't see where the edges of your fabric are. Does this have enough fabric? We're going to find out. And now that is cut 1/4 of an inch away. If you're working with regular paper, you won't be able to see, and you have to hold it in place or pin it. With the way I do it is, if I fold this back, I can take that to the sewing machine and stitch right along that edge. And I've showed you before what foot I use, and it is just called, don't tell me I lost it. Nope, there it is. It's a stitch in the ditch foot, and it just has a little metal guide right down the center, and that I just take it to the sewing machine, and I don't have to worry about lining up my edges or anything. And that guide I just look at the tip of this and run it along the edge. So I will do that quickly. I don't have my camera set up for my sewing machine, so, and I don't have to use pins because I can just hold it like this and take it to the machine and stitch right along that folded edge. If you're working with a big foundation paper piecing project, if you have a whole bunch of paper over here, you will have to fiddle with your paper when you get to the machine. Where everything is on the left side, where it's all open, you don't have anything on this side to interfere if it's a large piece. So I'm just going to stitch that up. I'm just using, because I'm stitching next to the line, I'm not stitching through the paper. And I'm starting off the edge and just stitching right down. And I'm using a 2.0 stitch length. Okay, now you can see it's in position, and you can see, you can't see. Here's my stitching line. If I stitch through the paper, okay, it would be stitched right through there. So pretend I've stitched through the paper. It's the same thing if I stitch through the paper. Now here is what I like about using the freezer paper. When I put my first piece on, I can fold it over and press it into position. Okay, now what happens if I have white here and black here? The black is going to show through. Is that the way? No, yeah, black here and white here. No, white here and black here. Yeah, okay. White here. Anyway, one of them is going to show through at some point. So if I stitch through the paper, I can't do anything about it. But what I can do with the freezer paper, fold this back, press my seams open, and no matter what fabric I'm working with, I've only got white showing through here, and my seam is pressed open. I'm just pressing this down good, and now we're just going to go on to number 3. And number 3 is on this side, so this should be number 3. Again, confuse myself. That doesn't look right. But if I fold it over, right side up, right sides together, I can read it, and it's in the right position, so I know that I'm not going to sew this edge on. I'm going to sew this edge on. So let's do that quickly. Oh, I guess I want to sew the fabric, not the paper. So I'm just going to line that up there, make sure I have a little bit on each edge. Flip it over. I forgot to trim. Heavens to Betsy. I didn't trim my seam allowance. I think after this seam, I'll come back in a later video and we'll finish these up, or if everybody understands, right side, long side, and that is number 3. Where did 3 go? I don't know. I lost it. Oh, it's right underneath. There it goes. That's the way it should go. Now we'll place that on, and that should be okay. Fold this back. I can see everything. I've got enough hanging over here and enough hanging over here. I do not suggest cutting all your edges at one point because that piece of paper could come off. And you can backstitch with the way I do it. It's basically the same as regular piecing. The only thing is we have paper on the back. So now again, I can fold this over. Everything lines up there, and we're going to be trimming this off after. And again, I don't want my seam over like this. It also, if you press your seams open when you have intersections, sometimes an open seam will give you less bulk. When I feel this, it's nice and flat. And of course, it's not flapping in the wind. It's staying right down to my paper. And it should be good. Now I want to press that seam open. Flip it back. Give it a light finger press. And now just lift up and tuck that seam underneath. And if I wasn't so clumsy, I would have it done. Okay, we got 2 more to go. And we're just going to go over the 2 hours just a little bit because we're just about done. Now, if I was chain piecing, which I could do. Oh, the other thing is, a lot of times with sewing through the paper, you have to rip that paper back. And this way, it's just as simple as just sewing a straight line right off the edge. You'll always be sewing right off the edge. You won't have to start at a certain point and back stitch, and you're always sewing just off the edge. So there's 4. Where's 4? Is that 4? No, that's 5. I want 4. Flip it over, Shirley. Flip this over. Right sides are up. It's number 4. It's in that position. Did I trim my seam allowance? Heavens. Yes, I did. Line up the cut edges. A little bit sticking off each end. And that looks pretty good. So now I'm just going to start stitching and stitch right off. No starting and stopping and having to rip anything. You're just sewing a straight line. I didn't start right at the beginning, so I'm going to do a little back stitch. I should be showing you this, but and because you're starting on the fabric, you shouldn't have any problems with that. Shouldn't have any problems with your machine pushing the fabric in, because you can start off the edge. So there's my line. I'm going to release that, press it, give it a little press open. Tuck that bottom seam underneath, give it a little finger press with my finger so that it lays flat, and press it down. And I find that it sticks better if you press from the freezer paper side. I have a little, the iron I'm using sometimes does not seem to get hot enough. I have one of those, the little mini irons like this, but for small piecing, oh, it's hot. This will make it stick. It's a much hotter iron, but what was I going to say about that iron? Can't remember. Oh, yeah, it's a little bit bigger, and this one, I just have to hold it there longer. This one doesn't get as hot as that other one. Now we're going on to our last piece, which is number 5. Shirley, keep it together. Flip it over. Right sides are up. I can still read it. It's in the right position. Fold it over. Line it up. Did I trim my seam? No, I didn't. Again. Yeah, I'm very informative. I'm very klutzy, actually. Thank you so much. The thing is, a lot of times people they won't show you. And that's what I found hard, was they didn't show me exactly. They just said, do this, this, and this. So now, have I got that right? This number 5. Yes, it's in the right way. Here's number 5. We're going to put that on, and we will be done our block. Now, the template, or the coloring page of the large piece that I showed you, I have to put it in tonight into below the description, or in the description below the video. And when you're sewing next to the line, I look at the tip of that little center guide. If you sew through and you make a mistake or whatever, it's easy to pick out because you haven't stitched through the paper. If the paper does rip, you just take another piece of paper or another piece of paper and just put it over top. This one has writing on it, or take this piece underneath it, like this. That's the way it goes. And then you can still see here, your sticky side is on this side, so you're not wasting any paper, and you're not, what aren't you doing? You don't have to worry about it having to print out another piece. And we are going to be able to use this piece later. And now when I have done this, I can feel that my seams are very, very flat. And I do sometimes use the, what do I use? The Easy Press solution from Acorn that everybody raves about. But I find that my seams are nice and flat. I do use it when I'm joining my pieces. Okay, last step. Last step is trimming that block down to size. How do I trim it down to size? I have extra all the way around. The outside line is your cutting line. However, I want you to lay your 1/4 inch mark of your ruler along that stitching line. And if you lay that on there, you want to cut. If this is in line and you cut with your rotary cutter, I need something here because this is, where did I put it? See, I lost it now. It's here someplace. I need my, oh, here it is. In all this mess, I can still find my stuff. I use a weight. And the reason is because I find this is a 1.5 kilogram, and it's a 3 pound. 3 pound. And I use that to lay on my ruler. And I'm not going to use this small ruler because I find if I use a small ruler, I sometimes cut wrong. So what we want to do is we want to line up our 1/4 inch mark on that. That's not quarter, that's half. I want to line up my 1/4 inch mark on that dotted stitching line. And I'm going to put my weight on here because no matter how many times I do this, I always seem to cut one side different or one area different than the other. So I'm just going to cut that off and put that in my scraps. Turn it, line up the 1/4 inch mark, Shirley, right along there, and that yellow line is laying right on top of the black solid line. And one more. I do not use a 4-inch square or whatever. I don't have those rulers. All I have is these basic ones. And put that down to make sure I'm on my line. Turn it off. And that goes in my scrap. And I have left a little bit of paper when I originally cut out my stitching template. There is always extra paper. And I know I'm probably forgetting to tell you something along here, but if you have any questions, you can put them in the comments below the video. And now, if you've stitched through the paper, you get to pick all the papers out. But I haven't stitched through the paper, so all I do is take and lift one edge. I'll run a pin along because my seams are pressed open. I want to release the seam that's holding it down there. Pull. And you can, if you're worried about, sometimes when I take the paper off, sometimes when I take the paper off, the fabric shreds. And I usually use a letter opener, but I'm going to use a point turner here. So I'm just going to, I've released this edge. I'll just push my thing in like that and like that. Release my seam edge here, and that's only because I didn't back stitch at the end or back stitch at the seam there. So I don't want to have my seam come open. It's still attached in the center, and there we have our block. And now we're going to measure it because it's supposed to be 4.5 inches. And if it's not, then everything that I gave you in the printout is wrong. So this better be right. Okay. I'm going to line up my 4.5 inch mark. Line this up here, 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 and I've got a bit of glare there. But anyway, line this up like this, line this edge up and this edge up, and if I get my stuff out of the way, and we're going to check here. Perfect. And if you notice, I've got 4.5 inches there, 4.5 inches there, and it's all 4.5 inches. And you will notice that this diagonal 45-inch line is lining right up against that line there. If I turn it and go this way, place it on so the 4.5 is marked, you can see where that 45 line is coming right along there, and they should all be like that. I have never made square in a square where using the traditional way of piecing to come out perfect. You're very welcome, Kathy. I'm only happy to do it. Now, if you look here, all my fabrics on the outside are in the correct direction. Now, this one is ready. When you stitch through paper, you are told to leave this on, because what you would do, I'm going to press this, when you're using the traditional way of stitching through paper, you would not take that off of the piece. You would leave that on there and then line up your two pieces and stitch along this line right here. The only reason is that if I do that, I'm going to waste this piece of paper. This piece of paper and my templates are all reusable, so I can use these pieces up to about 3-4 times, depending on what fabric I'm using and how much little lint is on the fabric. Now at this point, you should not have to press it with anything. It should all be ready to go to be stitched together. And I am, in the meantime now, we're just about done. This block is ready, and I would just go ahead and make some more, and I would do a chain piece method where I do all my number 2s. This is one. I would do all my number 2s, chain piecing them through. And remember, don't cut anything off, only cut off what you're going to be sewing on. So that is my block. You should not have to press it with easy press. Some people will spray it with easy press, or I can't remember, there's flatter and all those other things that you can press to make your block stiffer. You shouldn't have to. And the thing is, if you haven't pre-washed your fabrics, and do a test. I've tested it, and I haven't pre-washed fabrics, and I've sewn them together exactly like this, cut them out exactly, and as soon as I hit them with steam or any kind of starch or anything, they'll shrink and distort. So that's why I pre-wash, and then this block is is perfect size. It should go together with the next block perfectly. I'm going to make up a bunch of these, and I will be back. I'm not sure when. I have a few things to take care of tomorrow and everything, but I may be back on Friday, beginning of Friday, and maybe Friday morning or whatever, and I will show you the blocks that I have put together, and I'll give you tips on how to line things up, because you're going to have some seams that are going to be needing to be matched, and I'll show you how to do that in the next live video, which watch for the schedule. YouTube will put up a coming soon or upcoming video, and that is where I'll post when I'll be coming on live again. I want to thank everybody, and remember, in the description below the video are the PDF patterns, and I will try to get that other one put up so you can use that as well. Thanks for joining me tonight. I hope you found it informative, and we will see you in the next video, and have a great night and tomorrow and the next day until we see each other again. Talk to you later, everybody. Oh, by the way, just hang on 1 second here. Hi! I look like I've been put through the mill, right? So I keep forgetting to change the camera back to myself. So yeah, this is me and this is my mess, and I'm glad you joined me in my mess. We'll talk to you again later. Bye-bye, everyone.